Welcome, bent riders around the world. My name is Gary Solomon, and you're watching the Laidback Bike Report. We're coming to you live from the Laidback Bike Studios in Pickerington, Ohio, where we produce this monthly webcast that can be watched live now or viewed later. And you're not even viewing me, so let's. All right, there we go. Yeah, it can be viewed live right now or later on YouTube. How can you support this broadcast? Well, if you look down in the lower left, the lower right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see a little red subscribe button. That will subscribe you to our YouTube channel, and you'll get a notification. If you'll click the little bell that you see next to subscribe, you'll get a notification every month when we go live so that you'll know when our shows are. And in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little I there standing for information, and that will take you to our website, laidbackbikereport.com. You'll get a chance to see everything that we do, past shows, what we have coming up in the future, lots of information about what we do from that little eye that pops up. So you can always click on that and go to our website, find out more about the Laidback Bike Report there. We really would love you to be a part of this show every month when we come on and be part of the chat where you can interact with our guests, with our panelists, ask questions, make comments. Just stop in and say hi if you want to let us know that you're there. That really makes the show much more lively when you are a part of it. So how can you do the chat? Most of you watch on the YouTube page, and so right where the viewer is, where I am, if you look to the right, you'll see a window that says live chat. So you can just chat right on that. If you're on mobile, I think the chat window is right below, so you can hit the chat button down there and chat on mobile that way. If you're watching on Bent Rider or Facebook or Twitter, you might want to just, if you want to chat, just click through on the YouTube button there on the video, and you'll go to the YouTube page, and then you can take advantage of the chat screen right there. We have a really cool show, I think, coming up for you this month. Lots of interesting things. Let me tell you a little bit about what we got coming up today. First of all, we have our usual interview with a very special guest. I'm going to tell you about him in just a minute. Bryan is here with his news report from the Laidback News Desk. He's going to talk a little bit about those contests that he runs every year, the Bike, Trike, and Accessory of the Year contest. He'll talk about that. Denny Voorhees is here, and he's going to talk about the Ram and Bike Sebring races from the Sports Desk. Dana is with us, Dana Lieberman, of course, and he is going to continue with his contributions with the Tech Mech report. And we're going to talk about electric assist, I think, today, Dana is. So that should be fun. And then we'll round it out with the Google Plus Recumbent Bike Rider community business. We have our contest, the post of the month, all the pictures and the discussion posts. So we hope you'll stay with us for that. Very importantly, we also have a sponsor once again this month I'd like to talk to you about. If you have a recumbent bike or trike, chances are you, let's try that again. If you have a recumbent bike or trike, chances are there's an accessory or part mounted on it somewhere that was made by TerraCycle. Bent manufacturers have trusted the extraordinary quality of their idlers, stems, and mounts for years in producing the products you buy. Once that 2- or 3-wheel beauty is in your hands, TerraCycle is the place to go to add all the necessities you will need to ride safely and carry everything you need. They've got your racks and hydration packs. Upgrade with a flag and fairing pairing. And please don't sit idly by as your chain management falters. Now, I've had a TerraCycle front and rear idler kit on my Screamer for many years, and it's really improved both my shifting and my attitude while riding. So if you're looking for the best performance and reliability from your bent, go to t-cycle.com today. And if you want to come on back to me, there we go. I'll be letting you in on a very special exclusive offer made only to viewers of the Laidback Bike Report from TerraCycle later in the show today. So please stay with us. All right, let's talk about our panelists. It's a big part of the story today. First of all, not with us, Carl Kidd. He's dealing with some health issues, and we wish you the best, Carl. And since Carl's not here, I want to say hello to his mom, Wanda. Hello, Wanda. We always say hello to you. And Carl, we hope you're feeling better soon. Lars Kamm is on a job away from Germany. He's in Spain. He tried to be with us, but he was having too much trouble with his tablet and the bandwidth, and also can't be with us. So we miss you, Lars. If you're watching somewhere else, we're glad that you're doing okay, and we'll see you next month. Now, Denny, can you put it on yourself there, Den? There we go. Denny is taking on the job of directing today. So bear with us. It'll be a little rough around the edges, but Denny does a great job filling in for Lars. So thank you, Denny, and it's good to see you. He's from Sarah, Pennsylvania, and he, of course, is also our Laidback Sports desk anchor. All right, Denny. Now let's go on to Larry. You know, he's known as the man. He's known as the beard. He's a legend. He's from Cold Spring, Kentucky, and he's the esteemed co-editor of Bent Rider. It's Larry Varney, and it's great to have you back from your Santa Claus gigs. Finally, Larry, how you doing? Good. Very good. All right. No, that says it all. And then let's head out to Rochester, New York, where Bryan Ball is. He's the founder and editor of Bent Rider, and the anchor of the Laidback News Desk. Hey, Bryan.
It's 10 balmy degrees outside.
Yeah, that's about what we have here in Central Ohio too. So Bryan's going to help out, hopefully backing up in case we have any trouble on the directing as well today. Everybody's taking a hand in it. So, all right, good to have you with us, Bryan.
Thanks.
And lastly, and certainly not leastly, our newest panelist, Dana Lieberman from North Hollywood, California. He's the owner of Bent Upcycles and our Recumbent tools and technology expert. That's what I'm calling him. How you doing, Dana? It's good to see you. All right, folks. So at this point, if you want to come back to me, Denny, I want to talk to everybody about our special guest today. The year was 1983. Our guest was a successful freelance writer and consultant right here in Central Ohio. Over a period of time, he started to feel trapped in his own life. He began to think about a way to create a new lifestyle that would encompass everything he loved. This included computers, ham radio, adventure travel, writing, interacting with lots of new people, and cycling. It was there at the dawning of the digital technology age that he began to see a way out. With a newly developed personal computer and a dial-up modem, he'd have the ability to do his work remotely. He ran into an elderly gentleman who was riding an early recumbent bike and knew he had found his vehicle. It took him only 6 months to sell his house, build his rolling gizmo-laden platform, and hit the road. Over the next 10 years, he biked 17,000 miles while writing and then selling his book, Computing Across America. He designed and built 2 major upgrades to this bike and became known all over the world as the high-tech Nomad. Bent Riders, I'm very excited to introduce to you the original crazy guy on a bike, Stephen Roberts. Hello, Stephen.
Hello there.
It is so great to have you on. It's exciting. You're a guy I wanted to have on the show since I started, and I thank you so much for coming on and being with us today.
Well, thanks. It's good to be here.
So Stephen is going to start out today with a slideshow. So if you, Stephen, you want to go ahead and get that set up. As you folks know, let's go ahead and do this. We have interviews every month, and often we do the slideshow, but Stephen actually has done quite a few presentations himself and has a slide deck that he can use. So we're going to get him started. He can talk to you about his past and everything that went on. And if you are on the chat, and I see we've got quite a few chat messages going here, ask a question, whatever, we're going to find them for you and ask Stephen as we go. He feels real good about being interrupted during his talk and would be happy to answer those questions. So, okay, Denny, I think if you can go over to Stephen. There we go. Let's see, get that off of there. Stephen, go ahead and tell us a little bit about how you got started and how your talk starts.
Well, thank you. And hello, everybody. It's good to be here. I've never done this before, so there may be glitches, but it looks like we have a highly capable MC who can fix all of my mistakes. So anyway, as Gary mentioned, I spent a number of years chasing freelancing, which was just a way of being chained to a desk while actually owning the desk. And I realized at one point in '83 that I was doing things I wasn't really enjoying that much anymore, trying to pay for things I didn't really want after all. And that's when I decided to find the little reset button in the back of my head and push it. And of course, at that time, this was kind of a tricky thing because there was combining travel and adventure and computing and all that sort of stuff didn't really have a built-in tool set like we have now, where we just throw a cell phone in our pocket and go. So essentially, no, this picture is misleading because this was a later version, but I took a Radio Shack Model 100 computer, which was whizzy and amazing at the time, a little Kyocera box, an account on CompuServe, and decided to try to decouple myself from any fixed base and start traveling full-time while writing for a living. So I did, and that turned into a career. I actually thought it was going to be a bike ride, but it was a career, and went on for, 9 or 10 years with follow-up speaking tours, and then finally another whole project called the Microship. And you know, here all these years later, I'm now on a computerized boat, which you might have seen in the background, that carries the same essential themes. So anyway, I've got a few pictures here. Please do interrupt. I'm looking at full screen, so I can't see if somebody's typing a note. So
yeah, I'll jump in there when I see one that's appropriate. Go ahead, Steve. You're doing great.
Sounds good. So this was the original bike. This is 1983, and this shot was in Florida. The fellow who Gary mentioned, who I met on a recumbent, was riding Avatar serial number 1. His name was Robbie McCormick, who was apparently quite a legend in the recumbency world, and he'd ridden cross country. He was 65, had back problems and everything, and I just fell in love instantly. And he let me ride it around and then loaned it to me for a while, which was amazing. And I started by kind of cloning it and discovered that frame building is a bit of an art form. So I found a
Stephen, before you go too far on, I'm really intrigued about that first encounter, because that really has a lot to do with what went on afterwards. So, and I was going to ask you if you knew who that guy was, because I'd not ever seen that. So did you just was he riding around and you saw him? How did that first encounter happen?
I was out on a bike tour with a friend of mine in the Ohio farm roads just west of Columbus, and we're just pedaling along chatting, and I saw this thing gradually growing in the rearview mirror, and I said, "Walt, I think we're about to be passed by a recumbent." And he said, "Oh, Roberts, the election's not till November."
Oh, good one.
But sure enough, the guy pulled up alongside and we started chatting, and finally he agreed to swap bikes and let me try it. And after a few wild overcompensations with the underseat steering, I just fell in love. And at that moment, my life changed. That night, I was sitting by a campfire at a friend's place in Marysville and already constructing this whole concept of selling the house and computing while mobile and things like that. So it just triggered that pent-up desire to hit reset.
Just one of those things that fell into place just at the right time, it seems like.
Yeah, it was perfect timing. It was like everything was primed, and then that was the trigger, like a super saturated solution that forms a crystal.
Yep.
So anyway,
okay, yeah, go ahead.
So as far as building the bike, after home brewing one, and that was an entertaining exercise, but as you all know, that's not that trivial. I found a fellow named Jack Trumbull who had a company called Franklin Frames, and he was very well known for tandems. So he was the guy who took that original concept, some of the Avatar ideas, things that I wanted to do involving heavy loads and so on, and built this frame. And that was the same bike, the same frame that went through all 3 versions of the bike. In fact, the final version of 580 pounds of stuff, nothing ever broke. It had triple stays like a tandem. Crossover drive there with an eccentric at front, and on this picture it's just a 1-to-1 chain on this side and then the 18 speed on the other side.
So I wasn't aware of that either. So I was wondering if those were 3 separate bikes. That was all the same frame all the way through. Is that correct?
That's right.
Wow. Okay.
And the underseat steering there. There's just a push rod, and there's about a half an inch of positive trail. So the geometry was just perfect. It tracked beautifully without being heavy-handed at any point. So, you know, Jack was an artist, and I'm eternally indebted to him. He's unfortunately passed on now, but his work on this was a huge part of this project. And then, of course, I had to add a few things to it. Now, bear in mind, this is back in '83. The little white case up there had a power management system and a CB and a motion-sensitive security system that would beep me with a little pocket beeper if anyone touched the bike. Those are 5 watts of solar panels there. And then you can see the Model 100 down in the tent there. That's I had that and acoustic couplers, and I would plug those into payphones and upload my stories to CompuServe and answer my email and so on. And I had a base office manager in Columbus who acted as my interface with the universe, you know, but this was the tool set that let me decouple from my desk. On the first morning of the trip, after I left Columbus, I was in a little town in Ohio called Christiansburg, and I saw a payphone, so I pulled up to it and sat down, hooked up the couplers, and started to upload my first night story that I'd written in the horrible first night of camping. And this pickup truck pulled alongside, and a guy got out, and he was on his way over to the M&M Cafe, but he stopped and he looked at me and came over and kind of poked around the bike and then squirted tobacco juice into the weeds and squinted at me and said, "Are you with NASA?"
Well, you can see why. You know, it occurs to me, Stephen, that that when you talk about stopping on the side of the road and going to a payphone, for some of our younger viewers, I should have included a slide that would have shown them what a payphone is, because long gone, aren't they? I mean, some of the things that you counted on all the time are not even around anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to find modular phone jacks. And of course, my answer to him was, "Why, yes, sir. This is a loony excursion module." And then we both cracked up, and that sort of set the tone for the whole trip, I think. So this bike was wonderful, sleek and efficient. I ended up going about just under 10,000 miles with it, about a year and a half down to Key West, Florida, which is, this picture was taken in Clearwater, I think, after I had stashed the bike on the forward sail locker of a J36 sailboat and hitched a ride up to the west coast of Florida. And then from there, I just continued cross country and meandered all through Colorado and down to Southern California and up the coast. And during that trip, something happened, and that was in West Texas. I was realizing that I was getting all this media coverage, and I had a book contract for computing across America and monthly columns in various magazines, including CompuServe's Online Today, and a weekly column in USA Today. And a lot of stuff was going on. But the bike was no cure for terrible work habits. You know, I still would ride all day, have all these great ideas, and then at night I'd be hanging around with people or, you know, doing nothing or falling in love or, you know, everything other than writing. So deadlines were still just as bad as they ever were. PFD is my work mode, which is procrastination followed by despair. So it occurred to me one day in West Texas that if I could write while riding, this whole problem would be solved. And I had tried recording into a pocket recorder and all that, but I'm not very good at that. So I play flute, and it occurred to me that with 9 fingers getting 3 octaves, it's a same basic problem as generating the alphabet, and there's plenty left over. So I started conceiving this handlebar chord keyboard that would let me type in binary. So
Steve, let me stop you there for a second, and that is that's an amazing improvement that you made to your bike that I definitely want to talk about. But I've got a couple of questions here that I don't want you to get too far along, because they'll kind of lose the spontaneity of the thing. So first of all, Bob Brown from Florida talks about the whole influence that you actually had on him. Let me just let me tell you what he says. Way back when Steve was riding his big Recumbent across country, I was starting my bent riding on my Ryan Vanguard. I used to follow his news group posts on his gear selection. For me, one of the most intriguing things he came up with was his cooling vest that circulated ice water from an ice chest to keep his body temperature down when riding in very hot conditions. I poured over his choices of gear because he was really putting them to the test. For me, it was like a Recumbent. He was like a Recumbent Consumer Reports mobile lab. Nice. So did you feel like you were that in some sense?
Kind of, you know, it wasn't a deliberate intent, but, you know, I was trying to solve a whole bunch of different problems as effectively as I could. I mean, the penalty for doing things poorly was, you know, pain, inefficiency, repairs, and so on. So, you know, I felt like it was this little mini NASA, you know, in that I was pulling together all the best technologies I could find. Now, in these early days, I didn't have a bunch of sponsors. I think SolarX gave me those panels, and, you know, there were a few other minor corporate involvements in the thing and a few volunteers who helped put the thing together. But as the system developed, and as I get into the bikes that I'll show you in a minute, I had this amazing synergy that started to develop with industry and with really smart people. So like that cooling system, for example, was something that was developed by Life Support Systems for NASA. And it was also used by race car drivers and firefighters and even some people with a medical disorder that makes their body overheat. And excuse me, so they donated that. And I could circulate a little ice water through the helmet liner with a little peristaltic pump on Behemoth, not this early version. But it was amazing to, you know, to pull heat out of my body instead of you know, reach a hard limit while going up a hill on a heavy bike. So
that's
yeah,
a cool piece of tech.
Project.
Yeah, let me ask you one more, and I think this occurs to a lot of people, and I think they probably would have needed to read your book or books to kind of know about this, but I know everyone's curious. So you start out from right here in Central Ohio and take off down the road with all this stuff, and people are interested about your family encumbrances at the time. I've got a question from Jay Singer. You know, didn't you have any family encumbrances? So yeah, how did you do that?
Well, at the time, I had been married before, but that was about 3 years earlier. And I didn't handle that clearly in my book. So it all seemed like I left, you know, marriage and home, but that was already over. So those things are pretty decoupled. But, you know, I had friends and a girlfriend and so on. And nobody was particularly thrilled by my idea to sell my house and move to a bicycle and leave. Least of all my parents. I knew they wouldn't handle this idea very well since I'd finally settled down and started to look grown up. So I didn't quite get around to telling them about it until about a week before departure. And I did that by sending them a magazine article in Online Today called Steve Roberts, Computing Across America. And about 2 days passed and the phone rang and I picked it up and it was my mom, and her first words, not even hello, was, "What's the matter, Steve? You're going to be a bum all your life." I said, "Well, define bum." So,
Yeah, I mean, it was just because your ideas were so different, and that's the whole point of what you did, so different than what everyone else's were. But you were able to do so many things that that the rest of us, like, you know, we're about the same age, and I had a regular job during that time and enjoyed following along what you did. And you know, I guess the vast majority of us vicariously enjoyed and learned from what you did, because we couldn't do it or we wouldn't do it. I mean, you in most of your writing talked about why we should do it. But anyways, let's get back to your story. I don't want to get too far afield here. So we can go back to your slideshow maybe and let's move along a little bit. And okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this is the bike in motion here, and this is the original winter bike. You can see under my legs there that little bicycle computer that was called the Push, and it was awful. I mean, every time it got wet, it would fail and lose data. You know, so that was one of the first things to get rejected and replaced with a Cat Eye, which was this was all brand new tech back then. Bicycle computers were almost unheard of. But this was also about 3,000 miles into the trip, and was just at this point, it was really refined and worked well, and my pack system was so smooth I could do it in the dark and so on. So that, let's move on. So fast forward about 2 years, motivated by that handlebar keyboard, which you can actually see down there, those little tiny red buttons. I can actually turn here. Let me try this magic technology here. Right there, I've got these 4 buttons on each side, and I typed in binary, and the strongest 3 fingers of my right hand and the strongest 2 fingers of my left hand formed 5 bits, which was the low 5 bits of an ASCII character. So I got really adept at just doing, fast alpha typing with that. And then I won't go into a lot of detail, but the other fingers were shift, control, and numeric, and then there was all these zones and stuff. So I could basically do any characters. Of course, that's a lot slower than a regular keyboard, considerably slower, because there's these squeeze, 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 rather than coming off of one key while going for another. So I added a piece of code that kept a library of frequently used phrases. So if I typed TYVM, it would delete that and put in "thank you very much," or CZ became cheers, comma, carriage return Steve, So I got about half my normal typing speed or better using that cord system.
Let me ask you about, because another fascinating piece of tech that you had on there, and the where you typed and I've got a question that I had in my mind as well from Larry Hager, our buddy from up north. Typing while riding would be distracted driving today, wouldn't it? So, you know, the question really, to expand a little bit. So, yeah, you're pulling this, you're riding down the road. So, how can you concentrate on typing? You actually were typing emails and maybe even parts of a book while you're riding down the road. How could you concentrate on what you were doing and turning and where the traffic is and not running into ruts and all that sort of thing? We talk about distracted driving today. You know, that was the original distracted driving. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I always thought of it as two completely different parts of my brain, and you know, certainly at car speeds it would be a whole different thing. But it took so little attention to do that, and I would glance down at the screen every now and then to just see what I was doing. I wouldn't go into deep editing or anything like that because that would take too much attention. And also, I would just stop whenever something was happening. So if I was going through a city and dealing with traffic, then of course the keyboard's the last thing in my mind. I'm trying to stay alive, so. I never really had any problem with that. Later with Behemoth, when I had the heads-up display and some other stuff going on, a different problem happened. I started getting so used to that immersive environment that, I thought of it as this whole windowing system where reality was the root, the screen background, and then I had all these little windows that contained things I was trying to do. And when I was in a boring place, I wanted to swap those around so I could bring up an editing environment, and put Kansas in a small window in the corner. But
yeah, the only thing you have going for you when you're doing that stuff, Steve, at least, is that you're going 10, 12 miles an hour as opposed to going like 50 miles an hour. So
yeah, I don't use my cell phone when I'm driving now. I did for a while, like everybody does, and then had a couple of times when I went, wait, hold it, I just missed what happened there, and now it's a personal rule not to do that. But on the bike, it was never a source of issue at all.
Okay.
So.
All right, let's move along here. I'm sorry to have stopped you.
Questions are good. So this slideshow, by the way, just to give some context, the reason for all these titles and this produced kind of look is that I put this together when I gave a talk at Google about 1.5 years ago and spent a week down there. So that's why all the fancy bits. Anyway, I love this picture. It gives a really nice shot of the Winnebago 2 console. This was the brand new Whizzy technology here, this 3-watt cell phone. I had split it from its transmit receive unit and then put in a little device called the cell jack, which let me distribute a standard loop start phone line, RJ11 phone jack around the bike. And then that let me plug in things like credit card verifier, answering machine, fax, modem, of course, all of that stuff. So I had basically a phone system on the bike that ran over cellular. This is a 2-meter ham radio. That's a little CB, which was culturally useless, but occasionally handy. An altimeter, which I always advise, because that feeling when you're climbing a mountain and it's like, God, this is just going on forever. I want it to end. Well, having the altimeter tell me that I still had 1,000 feet to go took that sense of angst away. And of course, now we have GPSs, but that thing was lovely to have. Oh, by the way, I had this version of the bike on display. I think it was Gear Down, a bike rally down in Florida, and I returned to the bike sitting outside the building, and some cyclists were standing around looking over, and they're all in slicks and things. And one of them pointed at this and says, well, there's one thing I recognize. There's a cat eye solar. And the other guy said, nuh-uh, man, that's a cat eye nuclear.
Wow.
I know. And another comment I overheard in tech. I used to leave a tape recorder running sometimes when I was off the bike so I could listen to people's comments when I wasn't there, because if I just recorded it when I was there, it was just me answering the same questions. But one guy once said, damn, that dude could survive a nuclear war.
A perfect platform.
Yeah, he didn't know about electromagnetic pulses. I mean, I wouldn't survive a nuclear. Anyway, so this was the screen of a hacked Radio Shack Model 100. I took the little portable and built it into the bike so that whole handlebar keyboard system I mentioned was actually doing text up here. And then that little screen right there was the bicycle control processor. And then packet radio and all the other integrated systems were all controlled with that. So anyway, that's right. The Winnebago. And so here's the feature list of the Winnebago 2 and a couple more photos. It unfolded like this for service. So, there's all the innards and a 68 HT11 and, just all that stuff that it takes to make a bicycle work.
Stephen, this may be a good point to pause for a second. And as we talk about the evolution of this bike from this all the way through the Behemoth, and tell us how much these bikes weighed?
This version got up to about 185 pounds, I think. I forget. There were so many versions and variations. This one I can see over in this picture on the right, that hitch there indicates that I had the trailer, so that of course added a lot. You know, it's hard to say. It was constantly changing as I was building all this stuff. So Behemoth was the crazy one. I'll tell you the acronym in a second when I get to the photo, but it got a little bit unrealistic in terms of weight. But this version right here was beautiful. It was light enough to manage. I think 180, under 200, I believe. I never had a problem with it on hills, and by now I think I'd expanded the gearing range to 54 speeds by adding a third derailleur on the left, replacing the original crossover chain. That went through a lot of revisions as well. So right here I'm playing with ham radio. I carried a 10-tech Argonaut and would throw dipoles up in the trees, and I had a little vertical antenna I could run off the trailer and chat with people around the world. There's Morse code keyer down there. Good times. So.
And if we can, yeah, go ahead and let's go ahead and see this video here. Make sure not to do the audio, if you would.
Yeah, I got to remember how we muted this. Let me see if I can do it right there. There we go. Nope. Oh,
that's
okay.
right.
So, hey, Gary, can you talk for a second while this runs? I'll be right back.
Absolutely. Actually, I have a couple of questions that we'll get to in a minute for Stephen, but folks, this is probably a good chance for you to jump on the chat. We've had quite a few good questions already, and Stephen will be with us for the entire hour talking about the evolution of these bikes and where all he went. And if you have a chance to jump on the live chat, again, right next to the YouTube's viewing screen, you'll see the live chat. Ask a question, make a comment. We are here answering all your questions, and again, makes that a little bit more interactive, and I think it makes it more valuable for all of us. So, okay. Steve, are you about good to go there? Apparently not. We're going to watch this video here. This is, this I believe was maybe the video that that was produced by CBS, if I'm not mistaken, on with Steve. He was interviewed by many different TV, radio stations around the world while he was doing this and sending his reports back, writing his book. He was a novelty, as many of you know. Here he was still on his first bike and riding down the road. But if you'll notice, one of the parts of the evolution was that he had a trailer that came on afterwards. Steve, are you back?
I'm back. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
That was Golden Gate Bridge there. And now in San Francisco, I actually did Hyde and Lombard, which was completely nuts. This was adding the cellular phone, which was, that thing was so exciting to the media that CNN did a whole feature piece on it just because they were just fascinated by the idea of this new technology being on a bike. And again, this is still 1980, 87. That's the Winnebago too. But, and there's the trip that I described earlier. That was mostly, and oh yes, and there's the book I wrote about it, about the first 10,000 miles. I'm now in the process of redoing that as a combined volume that is that and the other just tales of about as many chapters. So that's going to be called High Tech Nomad. This little bit of filming here was from CBS Morning News down in Texas, and that was a lovely piece. I learned a lot about the media while this was happening. Some would throw in all this happy music and things like that, and these guys had a really nice policy of only using sound that was actually in my on the bike, and music that I was on my own tapes and so on.
That's a great shot.
Yeah, there we are. That's about the end.
And there's the anchor saying, "That's a great shot," probably.
Yeah. And here we're talking about sponsorships. That's, by the way, that's that computer replaced the little Model 100. That was a Hewlett-Packard Portable Plus, which was just a marvelous machine, about 24 hours of battery life or something like that. And as computer tools were developing and other tools were developing, I kept on enhancing the system while the trip was going on. So this is ongoing R&D process. And what was fun about it is that it started turning into this there was a culture that formed around it in the bike lab, you know, where really smart people would be attracted to the project and would contribute their skills. And they were like, they all knew more than I did about something. So I was surrounded by these brilliant people who were all teaching me stuff. And, you know, it's one of the most fun parts of my life is just having all that help. So,
Sure.
all right, there's the end of
Awesome.
So
let me, Steve, I could, one question from Bob Brown asks about if you would mention the landing gear on your bike.
yeah, so a perfect time to do that, because so here's Behemoth. This is the final version. This was about a 3-year project that happened mostly in a building sponsored by Sun Microsystems. And this was where I had the lab with about 40 to 45 volunteers, I think, and about 160 corporate sponsors. And in fact, the landing gear is one of the cases. There were a couple of very clever mechanical engineers who helped me design that and do the machining and so on. And one of my favorite memories of that moment, or that era, there was a friend named David Bergstresser, who was my mechanical engineering guru. And I had a Rockwell milling machine in my lab, and he was at the mill one night at the lab at Sun. And he's making parts, I think, for the landing gear. And there was another fellow doing some wiring, somebody else writing some fourth code for the audio crossbar system, and somebody else working on the bike tech, you know, the gearing and so on. So there's about 5 of us, you know, all slaving away. And I heard the mills spin down, and David said, "Hey, does it ever make you feel funny that so many people are working so hard to get you out of town?" So anyway, it was a fun era, but the landing gear turned out to be really necessary here. With the bike being so heavy, I ended up having to expand my gearing system to have ultra grannies. So this is the one that had the crazy range. It was a 105 speeds from 7.9 to 122 inches. So if you think of the excuse me, if you think of the gearing system as a 5x3x7 matrix of 3 derailleurs, at that low range, I could crawl up a hill, but the only catch was that I was going so slowly that balance became tricky. So I would find myself kind of getting a little twitchy on the handlebars. And if I had to stop and then start again, then I was in danger of blowing out a freewheel, because punching it to get going, you know, that initial start on a hill, it was ugly. So the solution, oh, pardon me, let me get some water. Sorry here.
You're okay, Steve. Go ahead.
So the solution was to build landing gear, and these were pneumatically deployed on a 4-bar linkage, and I used wheelchair wheels and a little trailing suspension stolen from the old Piper Cub design. That bungee wrap, you can see that little thing is, you can't really see the details, but there's this curved arm, and then that's the spring, and those things get deployed at the push of a button and then keep the bike upright when I'm going up a steep hill. Or it's kind of a computerized or an automated Trek stand system. So. And it became also just using a regular kickstand with something this heavy didn't work so well. So they ended up being a key part of the whole machine. And you can see here, this changed a lot. This is now a Macintosh in the console. I hacked a Portable Plus, the original Mac Portable, sorry, and built that in there on a hinged screen. There's a heads-up display in the helmet now, a 720 by 280 computer screen that sort of floats in space. It was called the Private Eye. And then there, and there, you can see the dots, but those 3 little things on my helmet form 3 little microphones that are receiving ultrasonic signal transmitted from the console. So they would convert head movement into phase and Doppler, which then became ADB events. Anyway, it's a head mouse. So the cursor on the Mac would follow my nose as I moved my head around if I was touching a button that said track my head. And of course, it had the handlebar keyboard and all that same stuff. So now I had a whole immersive Mac environment. Communications got a lot better. This is a Qualcomm Omnitrax terminal, and we did a little hack on that to move email through it in and out, pop an SMTP at about 165 bits per second. But it just sat there in the background and transported my mail and tagged outgoing mail with location. So I basically had a 24-hour-a-day net connection in 1990 while pedaling the bike. Power is now up to 72 watts. That's the lid of the trailer that lifts up, but that whole lid is all panels. This door flips down. This is all ham radio equipment down here. So now it's HF, VHF, UHF, little amateur television station, and so on. And that BYP, or big yellow pole, carries a big multi-band. Oh, and speaking of acronyms, I mentioned I'd tell you this. Behemoth stands for Big Electronic Human Energized Machine, Only Too Heavy. So,
Perfect.
And this box is the Spark Station. I needed something that could for heavy-duty internet applications and things. So at the time, these were all things that occupied different kinds of computing environments and stuff you couldn't do with the Mac. And of course, the joke there is I always wanted to ride a Unix cycle. So let's see. So I don't think I have pictures in the slideshow, but this all unfolded even more interestingly than the Winnebago 2 one. It's some reviewer once called it unfolding like a lotus flower. There's a fellow Kearney, I forget the name, but there was a fellow way back in the 80s. Some other old timers may remember would sell these yellow flashers for bicycles, and everybody always thought I stole, but I didn't. But I retrofitted that with LEDs, and as far as I know, I had the first high brightness LEDs on a bicycle. I retrofitted little automotive assemblies there and put in clusters of Hewlett Packard LEDs that had been made for the brand new high brightness LED tech. So I had automotive grade visibility without sucking a lot of power.
Super. Let me, if I could,
yes.
Let me get a couple more questions in here. There's Jamie Hart is asking, can you discuss the wheel count and wheel size? What size wheels were you using there?
Oh, that was kind of a pain. Actually, 3 different ones. The front wheel was 16 inches, and of course, the only good rubber for that, well, there wasn't any. So it was kids' sidewalk bikes, So I had to carry spares for that. This was a 27 by 1 1/4. And for that, I think I was using Specialized Expedition tires. The neat thing about this wheel, though, is that it was a tandem style again, 48 spoke undished. And being an undished wheel, it was symmetrical in cross section. So instead of a normal bike where you've dished on one side and kind of flat on the other side to make room for the cluster, this had a much more balanced and strong structure to it. And it was a bunch, I think the spokes were DT 14 gauge or something, but I never, other than once in an actual wreck, I never broke spokes or had any kind of wheel problems at all. That was a huge stress issue there. So I'm really happy with that. These were just 20-inch wheels. I can't remember where those came from, but yeah, that was one of the design flaws, is having 3 different sizes of tubes and spares I had to carry. So.
Right. Many of the rest of us on recumbents have to carry 2 different kinds, but 3, that would really be, well, you had so much with you anyways. What's the difference, I guess? Okay. We also had a question. You just briefly touched on the fact about accident or something. And we had one question about, did you have any incidents over the years while you were riding? Can you tell us about what you might have run into literally?
Fortunately, nothing terribly serious. The worst was a guy opening his pickup truck door in front of me in Whiteville, North Carolina. He just didn't see me. It was nothing bad. Well, it wasn't intended, I should put it that way. And of course, I trashed his door and pretzeled the wheel and damaged a couple vertebrae, and that had slowed me down for a little while. A few random falls and things, never any thefts or bad people. It was, in fact, a wonderful discovery that is kind of a different question, but with so many people had warned me about all the bad stuff that was going to happen. You better carry a gun, you better carry a machete. And I got this advice all the time. And then as I started traveling, I thought there's no part of the country that was bad. Occasional random creepy people I've learned to avoid, but for the most part, nothing horrible. I got pulled over a couple times. Once in somewhere down in Virginia, I think. I was riding along and I look in the rearview mirror and there's police lights, and I just kind of slowed down to let him pass and do what he was going to do. But he pulled alongside me and made that, that gesture we all know with the finger, like pull over. So I did, and he walked up with his, he's got a book. I thought it was a ticket book in his hand and his service revolver and his mirrored glasses. And I said, was I speeding? And he goes, nah, I just want to see what the hell y'all got here.
Just another curiosity coming down the road, right? All right, let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I did get hassled once for being at a payphone trying to do email, and a cop came over and just would not understand the concept of doing email from a payphone. I thought he was going to arrest me. I had to run him through a complete demo of signing on to Genie, and he kept on going back to, well, who's paying for this? I've had 3 calls about you being out here messing with this phone.
You had a lot of splaining to do, didn't you?
I did.
All right, let me, if we can, while you have this one picture up here, I've got a question from SBC Clydesdale. Did he like having a trailer instead of loading up the bike frame?
Good question. I went back and forth on that a lot. Sometimes it was awfully nice, but by the time it got this big, it was a real pain. And the nice thing is today, all this tech stuff disappears into, you know, a pocket or two. So I would eliminate a massive amount of tonnage. And if I were doing it again today, I'd have serious second thoughts about using a trailer. It's kind of a Weasley answer because I don't really know. You know, I mean, there were parts about it that were nice because I could just drop the trailer and go ride the relatively unencumbered bike. But every time I'd stay in a motel, it was just all this extra stuff to wrestle in and deal with and fix, and extra oiling resistance, and you know, I couldn't sneak quite as far off the side of the road. So yeah, those I haven't ever tried one, but those bob trailers with a single wheel seem kind of intriguing. And if I were doing a minimalist high-tech bike now with as much technology as I needed, I'd be looking at that as a possible solution.
Okay. All right. Do you want to go through the rest of your slides here? Let's see if we can kind of wrap it up here.
Nearly to the end. This, again, this was for Google, so I think it quickly gets into some other stuff. But this image just shows the relationship and how the bike turned into this career. It's the project sponsors media symbiosis that started to form, and of course that was just tremendous fun for me because lots of new toys and interesting people and so on. And oh yes, and I did have a picture of it unfolded. So there's the console all unwrapped, and I had terrible trouble with bike shops. They never understood this. I pulled into a shop once. I'd blown out the Suntour New Winter Pro freewheel or something. I punched it going up a little short hill and just trashed the thing. You know, it was shredded, made horrible crunching noises. So I pushed the bike to a nearby Schwinn shop, and I parked the thing in front, and the guy came out, and I started to tell him what I wanted. And he goes, "Well, we wouldn't have anything for that." And I said, "Well, no, I need a New Winter freewheel." "Well, we wouldn't have anything for that." We went back and forth 3 or 4 times. I finally reached down and grabbed it, and I said, This is broken." He goes, "Oh, gears. Yeah, dude, we got gears."
It's like the people who ride Velomobiles now, and people don't understand that it's a bicycle or, you know, or a trike or whatever. They just see that some crazy machine. They don't understand what's running it.
Yep.
And that's what happened to you.
That's what happened. Oh, so there's a good shot of the console. So you can see the Macintosh environment there. And then that was a screen owned by a small hacked laptop. And that was a little mini, basically a bunch of LEDs to display individual bit conditions. And so on your basic bike console, and a better shot of the helmet. I forgot I had that, but they're those 3 sensors. And I used to joke that I could just throw a switch and feel lightheaded, you know, just by turning those on. And there's a boom microphone there, police grade Setcom, I think, really nice audio system. So I could pipe that. I didn't go into architecture, but there's an audio crosspoint switching system in here. So anything could talk to anything, and speech synthesizers and radios and all that stuff could get routed around to do whatever I needed to do.
Okay.
And there's the ham shack. So,
very nice. That's a big thing with you, I know, Steve. So.
Yeah, I was you know, talking to hams in Japan while pedaling would lead to these fascinating conversations. I'd been teaching myself Japanese, and so I was practicing and feeling really good, you know, about explaining this in Japanese. And the guy named Hideo near Tokyo came back and he goes, Harley Davidson.
Not that kind of bike.
No, he got the big bike part, you know. But
right. All right, what do you got next there, Steve?
That's about, and then there's a feature list, which is way too much to dwell on, and I don't even know if the resolution shows it, but
yeah, it's quite clear, but we probably need to move on past that. It's amazing. There's a great shot of you. Very nice. All right, is that about the end of it? I want to bring you back. Oh yeah, let's talk about this, because one of the questions I was going to ask you, where are the bikes today? So maybe you can answer that question while you're showing Behemoth there.
Well, the Winnebago 2 console is here in my lab, and the Behemoth, the final bike, you know, which is the one and only frame, is in the Computer History Museum, which I absolutely recommend, and for lots of reasons beside my bike. It's a wonderful place to visit, and it's down in Silicon Valley in Mountain View, and it's part of the permanent exhibit there now, along with my first homebrew computer. So I've got 2 artifacts there.
That is wonderful.
A good home for it.
All right.
Yep.
Yep. Go ahead. Sorry. Finish it up.
Okay. Well, then I spent the next 10 years doing the same thing, but with a boat. And, you know, that leads to a lot of other stories, including where I am right now. And I'll bring up that picture in a minute. But that's the microship. And that's amphibian pedal solar sail micro trimaran with a bunch of tech built in. There's a pedal drive unit and hydraulic controls of the landing gear. And this is another whole story. But
recumbent seat.
recumbent seat. As a matter of fact, it's a Ryan.
So there you are. You fit right in. It's
right there.
a continuous story. Yeah, I could see. That's awesome. That's so amazing.
Okay.
All right.
I think that's the spot to end the slideshow.
Yeah. I want to bring you back here because we have more questions and I got some questions. There we go. Thank you for that slideshow. That was awesome, Stephen. We appreciate that. There you go. Let's go back to Stephen if you can, Denny, so we can have a look at him. There we go. Because we had off. Let me ask you a couple questions we have here that are some good ones. So, you mentioned when you had pulled off to the side of the road to find the phone booth, and the cop saw you had some explaining to do, all that stuff. So, Trike and Cherry says, phone freaking through the phone lines, or did you keep 5 pounds of coins on you? Is the question. It's a good one.
Good question. I would almost always have an 800 number that I would dial, or I used MCI cards or whatever the card was in that era, where I would charge to an account. But back in those days, it was a problem because a lot of cities didn't have nodes. So getting into CompuServe, I would have to use TimeNet or Telenet to connect to CompuServe, and places like Key West involved a long distance call to Miami, and then that would then get me into the network. So it was a roundabout process back then.
Okay. And we have Captain Jim asking, hi, Steve, any weather related issues with all that tech stuff on the bike?
Not too bad. Hi, Jim. Everything was pretty well waterproof. If you define water as fresh water falling out of the sky as droplets, nothing there would have handled a nautical environment, of course. But I never really had any significant corrosion. Early on, I learned to use stainless and vapor phase corrosion inhibitors and everything else I could do to keep things protected as well as possible. But no real problems. The console had a Velcro on cover that would keep the water off it. And I think the only thing I had to stop and mess with if it rained was I had to put a little baggy, kind of crude over the heads up display because it wasn't waterproof at all. But otherwise, it all survived.
Okay. All right. I think we'll stop the chat at this point. Let me see what I've got left that you haven't answered, because I think you've answered most everything so far. Oh, here's one that I was thinking about. So I don't think enough has been said about the exposure that you gave to recumbents at a time when they were really a novelty. I mean, let's face it, you thought it was recumbent chasing you that very first time, but not very many people. Sorry, Dana, can you? Thank you. So my question is, how much interest did you have from people that you met up with when you were doing your trip? In the bike itself, as opposed to all the technology that we've talked about today. I mean, what did they tell you? Did you have some encounters with some people asking about the bike?
Oh, a lot, yeah. In fact, on the road, most people had never seen a recumbent at that point, and questions ranging from, well, how do you steer that? Or one guy said, what if the guy in the back don't like what the guy up front's doing? Which I thought was an odd take on it. So I looked around like, what? Oh gosh, I came out of a restaurant in Silsbee, Texas once, and a guy was standing by the bike, and I was getting ready to go. I just kind of wanted to hit the road, long day ahead, and I didn't really want to chat. And he goes, that ain't gonna work. And I said, what? And he goes, there's no way to balance that. And I said, oh no, after 4,000 miles, I'm stuck in Texas. And I got on and started pedaling away, and I heard him behind me go, well, I'll be dipped. But
well,
anyway,
yeah, go ahead.
Industry, I was hoping that the industry would get excited and want to, participate or market it. I had dreams of marketing them or something like that. But I actually have a letter somewhere in my files from Schwinn saying we don't believe in recumbents. We don't believe they'll ever catch on. It's a fad. So it's really kind of, it was sort of esoteric back then, and it was a wonderful little microculture. I depended very heavily on the human-powered vehicle community. Lots of neat people doing clever things, and a lot of my designs and work fell out of stuff that other people had done in that world.
So kind of the flip side of that question now. So obviously you worked with a lot of other people that had recumbent bikes or were designing recumbent bikes, but on the road, as rare as they are, did you occasionally run into other recumbent riders, and what was that meeting like if you did?
Very rare back then. Yeah, in fact, when that happened, it was occasion for camping together and swapping stories. I can't remember any names, but there was very few people touring on recumbents in the early 80s. Yeah, I can't remember any particularly, but it was a tiny little microculture at the time.
Yep. Yeah, it's not that much bigger now, but it's it was very, very small then. All right, I had read in a few spots in your book and some other places that when people were asking you, where's the motor on that thing, whatever. I know you talked about it being your legs and all, but you also mentioned a couple spots I saw about maybe finding a way to motorize or some sort of electric assist. We're going to be talking about electric assist coincidentally a little bit later on today. Anyways, did whatever happened with that? I don't think that ever happened, but why not if it didn't?
Never got finished. We were trying Semi-Fusion, I think was the company. We were doing a variable reluctance motor generator that was being built as the wheel hub. And the idea there was not only to provide a mode of propulsion from my power system, but also to do regenerative braking and so on. So when we modified a brake lever so that when you'd squeeze the lever, I think I used a little load cell, so it would first attempt to satisfy the braking request by pulling power out of the wheel. And then if you needed more, it would then allow the disc to close. Anyway, it was a neat project. It was all during the time that Behemoth was getting launched in '91, and it just never got done. So I have no experience with that. I've since owned an electric bike, but I had the one from AeroVironment, the Charger, but never did it with mine.
Okay, one of the other things I had read that you had talked about that I never saw a result from was that after this trip, at some point you had talked about wanting to go overseas, go to Europe or Asia and tour over there. And I don't think that ever happened. So how close did that come to ever happening?
I thought that was going to be the fallout of Behemoth. I thought, so I should make some context here. So the ratio of development effort to riding time is telling. So the first bike was 6 months of development and a year and a half and 10,000 miles of riding. Great ratio. The second one was a good ratio. That was about nine or 10 months of development and another year and a half or so of riding, the Winnebago to both coasts. So those two totaled 16,000 miles. Then Behemoth was 3 years of development and about, 3 months of riding or something, maybe about 1,000 miles. And by then, two things had happened. One, it really was too heavy. It was hard. But another more subtle issue is that I was just kind of burned out. There were no longer any wonderful surprises to being on the road. And I was just kind of tired of it at that point. And that was complicated by the fact that there's now more questions, more media, physical difficulties of just the day-to-day logistics of that much equipment. So the idea of going internationally and, doing all the things I thought I was going to do, that just started to fade. And also somewhere in there, I started getting excited about kayaking, and, I would pedal along the shore of Lake Michigan or something, and I would just be fantasizing about doing all this on water. So it was time for a Technomad's midlife career change.
Gotcha. All right, a couple more questions from chat. I think some of these people are your friends. I want to leave them out. So Nick Wainwright says, "Great show, Steve." Thanks, and Larry Hager, again, our friend from up north. I saw him on some show back then, and I think he was my first exposure with recumbents. Haven't got rid of the virus since. So you're responsible apparently for that one. Also, our friend Richard Myers, a venerable recumbent bike racer in his 80s now, and a great guy. You should meet Richard sometime, Stephen. He says Stephen's articles were my first exposure to recumbents, and so that's saying something right there.
I'm honored. Thank you.
So let's see, anything else here? Really enjoyed it, Steve. John D. Giovanni, I think maybe another friend of yours. So, okay, I got a couple quick final questions here. So I know everyone's interested after hearing all the things you did on the bike, all those years of riding and development, and how much you love recumbent bikes. Do you still ride?
I haven't in quite a while. I'm having some back problems, and I had a mountain bike here, and I live in Friday Harbor in the San Juan Islands, and I found I just wasn't doing it much. So, no, sadly, I'm having fun working on boat projects. This scene behind me here is my 50-foot Delta boat. I sold my sailboat last year, and so now I'm geeking out this ship, and a lot of the same kind of motivations, taking all my favorite gadgets and wrapping them into a single integrated system. But it's a whole
that's all you have time for right now. Go ahead and it's not an emphasis of what we do on the show, but it's so interesting to see where you went with all this, and this is where you live now. So if you could take just a couple of minutes, Stephen, tell us what's behind you there. Where exactly are you, and where are you living, and what you got in there?
Let's see. Let me bring up one other image to share here, if I can do this without. Here we are.
While you do that, I'm going to mention that Donald Velasco says, it's the people I meet that makes biking great. Second most important thing is seeing the country. Doing it in comfort on a bent is a plus, of course.
Yes, indeed.
And SBC Clydesdale wants to know, do you use the ham radio much?
I do.
KF5ELP. I've got a list here that I'll send you, Steve, when I'm done, because there's probably 8 or 10 people who have chimed in just to say hi or whatever, and have put their ham handles. Is that what you call them? Call sign?
And for RVE here.
Yep. So that's what they're all saying. So I'll let you see those. You may have to contact all those people. Okay, go ahead. It looks like you're ready to go.
So that picture that's up is my is what's beside me here in the boat. This is my console, and the rest. If you picture big power boat, this is in the salon that would have originally been a place for entertaining and dining and things like that. This is more fun. The keyboard there retracts. That's on a drawer, so that's usually completely invisible. And then the stuff in the console, real quick, from left to right, is video and audio equipment, and then an electronics lab. That whole suite of test equipment, that bright tan stuff that needs to get painted. And then in the middle is all the networking stuff, including all the Ethernet and a 16 terabyte NAS and all those other geeky tech bits. And then under the iPad there with the sheet music on it is ham radio gear, which I'm just in the process of working on now. That blank panel above still needs to get done. And then to the right is what we're talking through right now. That's all audio processing, including Motu audio routing stuff with web interfaces. And it's just, awesomely geeky. And then over on the other side of the boat is a 3D printer and a little machine that runs the Oculus Rift and film scanner and things like that. And then down in the basement of the boat, I'm sorry, the anteroom to the engine room, is a small machine shop, so I can make parts and things. And there's also even a place to sleep.
Remarkable that you left that there. And so when do you plan on actually leaving the dock and going someplace on this boat?
That's looking like spring or summer. I've been on the boat a little less than a year now, and now I'm finally wrapping up packaging enough that I'm actually thinking of it more as a system I'm using rather than a system I'm building. And so what's next is to get it all bolted down so it doesn't go flying. There's a few loose items there. If you look at those monitors up there on top, I have a system with draw latches that'll tie it down. But if I went out and got it waked right now, it would be ugly. So,
well, what is next? I guess that's a good place to kind of leave it here. So, what are your future plans here? Working on the boat, do you have any other big projects you want to talk about that you're going to be doing in the near future?
Well, no, everything is in this in this context now. So the idea is to get all the systems done here, get rid of my
Stephen, why don't you can you bring yourself back on? So I don't want to.
Let me hit stop here, and
we can see you while we're talking.
Yeah. Okay. So so anyway, I just want to finish this stuff up and start playing. Just open-ended wandering Pacific Northwest inland coastal waters up to Alaska, things like that. I'm no longer thinking of going around the world or anything like that.
Yeah, that's still pretty ambitious for guys our age anyway. So, all right. Any closing remarks or anything that we might have left out that you wanted to say?
No, nothing really comes to mind. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat, and you've brought me current on this nifty new technology here for conferencing. I've only recently have I had sufficient bandwidth to even consider this, so it's been a good learning curve for me too.
Steve, it's really been a pleasure having you on, and I feel like I've made a friend. I learned something every time I talk to you, so I sure appreciate you being with us. I hope you'll stick with us for the rest of the show, and hopefully we can come up with a few things you haven't seen yet on Recumbent bikes. But thank you so much for being with us, and I hope to talk to you again soon sometime.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Gary, and thanks everybody.
Thanks, Steve. All right, back on me, Denny, if you can, and we're gonna go. Here we go. Well, I can do that. There we go. Okay, folks, that ends the interview portion of our show. And at this point, if he's ready, I think we're gonna go to Bryan and hear the Laidback news report. Bryan, are you ready?
I'm ready. You got me?
Let's do it. Oh, Denny, can you get him?
I can get myself.
That's what there you go.
There we go. Oh, and that's am I on to everybody?
Yeah, we see you. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, cool. Mostly it's winter time, so there's not a whole lot of news. But we did have the Bent Rider Bike and Trike and Accessory of the Year Award presentation on January 1st, as we always do every year. It was really cool this year. We first of all, the best thing I think is we had more reader votes than we ever have. I think about 11,000. So that was pretty crazy this year. Every year I say I'm going to make a dedicated email account for it. Every year I forget to, and I send it to my own email account, and my email is useless for 2 weeks. So I guess I should have thought ahead of that. But another cool thing was this year, every one of our awards were decided by one vote, and the ones that got it were actually the reader votes. So how we do this, to backtrack a bit, we do a 7-vote system. So there's Larry and I each have a vote, the editors, and then we do 2 dealers we choose at random. We try to change those up every year, and they each get a vote, and then 2 we call them insiders. So it'll be like somebody else who runs a Recumbent blog, or maybe somebody who posts a lot on the message board that we know knows a lot or whatever. We'll just pick a couple people and give them a vote, and then the readers have a final vote. But this year, they usually just have the one vote. But this year, all the reader votes actually are the ones that decided them. So that was kind of cool. I like it when that happens, when the people get their say. So first of all, I'll come up with our bike of the year, which was the new folding linear roadster, which we were, and thanks to Jake Cabral for making our cool little graphics there. I always like to thank him. He does it completely gratis, and we very much appreciate that. The linear roadster, I reviewed the non-folding version a couple years ago. Supremely awesome handling recumbent. Forget that it's undersea. It's just one of the best handling short wheelbases I've ever ridden. Always really, really liked it. And now they've come up with this new folding version, which easily fits to ship in an airline package, not too terribly difficult. And it's built actually right down the road here. So right here in upstate New York. So it's a very, very cool bike, aluminum extruded frame, great company to deal with, fairly low volume, but an awesome bike, and very well deserved that they won it. And next up, we have our Trike of the Year, which was the Azub Tie Fly, which it came down pretty close between this and the Cat Trike Dumont, but I think people liked the way they did the suspension is completely different than anybody else does. As you can see from this picture, that's why I chose this one. It's not your standard cruciform. It's got the titanium leaf springs in it with dampers, and completely different way to do it than anybody else has ever done it. And it actually works, and it's a great handling bike. One of my favorite aspects of it, I think I said in the review, when you hit a really big bump and it quote unquote bottoms out, it doesn't feel like it bottoms out. There's not like that hard clunk. The suspension just kind of gently stops moving. And it's got a lot of travel on all 3 ends. They won Trike of the Year last year with their Tricon, and 2/3 of this Trike is a Tricon. It's just got the front suspension on it. So very well deserved to them. Glad that they won it. And finally, our accessory of the year, which this one was kind of cool because Crispy Steve, Steve Sussman, we always call him Crispy Steve. That's his name on my message board. He'd been making these headrests for years and primarily just selling to people on the board or whatever. He's started to branch out and make them more manufactured product. And as you can see by Larry's silly face on this, you can get them embroidered in anything that you want on it, pretty much.
Oh, I thought all of the headrests, Brian, had Larry Varney on them. I thought that was how they...
No, Larry's trying to sign that deal, but Steve luckily is pushing back on that. So Larry wants too much to license his image. But no, this is Larry's from his Cat Trike 700, as you can see from the photo. I just got a nice, cool purple and silver one for my wife's Bent Rider logo for my wife's Dumont. But it's very cool. You can do all these little things, and like I said in the mention, and when when they announced that they won it, it always says, people say, I got a new Trike, and people say, pictures or it didn't exist. That's always the first response. And now the second response always is well, what are you getting on your Crispy Steve headrest? So it's actually called Finer Recliner. It's not called a Crispy Steve headrest, but for those of us that have known him for years, that's what we'll probably always call him. So sorry, Steve, but that's what we call him. But it's a really cool product. And he's the reason he was up for it this year, he really updated it this last year. It's a much different system. It uses mountain bike stem on it, and it's very easily adjustable. And he improved what was already a really cool product. So congratulations to him for winning also.
And that will pretty much do it for you?
Yep, I think that's about it. Yeah, it's winter time. I'm sorry, I don't have a whole lot else.
No,
to say,
you're fine. That's a great contest.
The 2 or 3 little tidbits that I know I'm not allowed to talk about yet, but I will be probably by the next one. So
okay, all right. We'll be looking forward to those tidbits. Denny, you got yourself back on. Brian, you want to do the directing for Denny's Sports Report there?
I can absolutely do that.
Okay, we'll hit him, and then we've got some pictures too. If you can go back and forth, there we go. Denny, you ready to go?
Oh yeah, I think so. See how long it lasts here. And it was really great to. Yeah, it was great to see Steve Roberts there. And by the way, Steve, I see you're still kind of in the background. I'm AD30, and Larry Varney's got a ham call too. And Lars Kolm, our German connection, he's a ham radio operator also. So we've known about you for a long, long time here.
We're not going to start doing the show by ham radio, right?
No, we're not.
Okay.
No, we're not.
For God's sakes, Brian, we have enough trouble doing it this way. So let's go ahead. Go ahead, Denny.
Okay. All right. This month, I want to give everyone a heads up on the recumbent teams that are signed up for Race Across America and a Race Across the West this June. So far, there are 2 recumbent teams, 1 solo rider signed up for RAM. Race Across the West has 1 solo recumbent rider and 1 4-man team. The lone solo rider for RAM is 72-year-old Sergei Zimin. This is the venerable Russian's 6th attempt in 6 consecutive years, probably a record of some sort. Sergei rides a home-built recumbent that the RAM organization lists as an HPV and has a small crew, but he has gained quite a following because of his tenacity. In 2016, he made it to Kim, Colorado before withdrawing. He was almost 500 miles further than any other previous attempt. He's 72 years old, but could this be his last year? I don't know. He wants to do it very, very badly. Red Pearl Racing is Bill Spaeth and Sandy Earle. They are on track to establish the 2-person mixed recumbent record for RAM. They are an experienced team who also raced Raw in 2014. They're life partners as well as teammates, which they view as an insane competitive advantage. Bill is an indoor cycling instructor and a personal trainer. Sandy has more RAM experience, having both raced and crewed RAM. Spaeth and Earle recently switched to racing Schlitter Encore 20s. They're the first U.S. customer to receive the Encore 20s and are confident that the lighter weight and excellent handling of the new bikes will enhance their effort. Red Pearl Racing is raising funds for the local charity Food for People's Backpacks for Kids program. Backpacks for Kids sends a backpack filled with nutritious food home with needy kids on Friday so that they can eat over the weekend and come back to the school ready to learn. A small investment could make the difference between a kid being a drug user or becoming an adult who is excited to give back to the community. Their goal is simple this year. It's an official finish. Okay, the 4-person team registered so far for the mixed team is Cruise Bikes 3,000 Miles for a Cure. The team members are Jim and Maria Parker. We've had them on the show, and they're great people. Kevin Gamble and Larry Oslin. Between them, they have set 25 course and world records in ultra cycling. Maria, as you probably already know, successfully finished RAM in 2013, mounting an amazing comeback after a vehicle rear-ended her support vehicle near Tuba City, Arizona. Here's a quote from Maria herself. "We are excited about a team approach to curing brain cancer, and we are expecting to have a lot of fun making a quick crossing and have huge impact on brain cancer research. The team has a big commitment to raise money for brain cancer research and would appreciate your support. Their website is 3000milestoacure.com, and they can be found at the Cruise Bike Facebook page. In the Race Across the West, Ben Tomlin of Florida will be taking on this race. Actually, this is the second time for Ben. I said here first time, but it's actually second. Ben is no stranger to endurance racing. He has done multiple events and will be looking for a good finish in Durango. Finally, in the Race Across the West, a 4-man British team brain farts, BRAINFARTZ. We'll just get that right. I was unable to find anything about this group. Several searches turned up information on brain injury charity, and I suspect they have something to do with it. We have a picture here that Gary was able to snag off the web here. And it may not be, I don't know. But if anybody in there out there knows anything about them or has contact information, drop me a line. We'd be happy to give them a shout out on a future show. Coming up next month is Bike Sebring, and it looks to be a great field of recumbent bikes again this year. As in the past, the race will be taking place on the Sebring racetrack in Sebring, Florida, in the local roads. I should be there doing the crew thing, hanging out with some great people of ultraling. So that's about it for this month. If you run across some event or accomplishments you think we should drop us a line here at the Laidback Bike Report. So until next time, stay on your bike and keep moving forward. Back to you, Gary.
All right. Thank you very much, Denny. Good sports report. I look forward to getting down there to Florida with you next month, and I'm going to try to see if I can make it to Sebring too and see what goes on down there. We have a lot of good friends to meet up with down in Florida. Look forward to seeing all of you down there. First couple of weeks in February is when we're going to be down there, and hopefully ride with some of you guys and hit some of the trails, maybe the A1A again. So look out, Florida. Here comes half the Laidback Bike Report down to see you in February. Great job, Denny. Thanks. Okay, now let's head over to Dana. Can you get Dana on there? Yep. And Dana's going to talk to us a little bit about some e-assist, I guess. Go ahead, Dana.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. How you doing? This is Dana from Bent Up Cycles. And one of the most frequent questions that I get here in the shop, especially in the last year, is how do I add electric assist to my recumbent bike or trike? Usually it's in the context of a trike. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. As many of you may know, there are two different types of electric assist that are possible on a recumbent. And let me turn my camera around because I got bikes here that I can show you. Probably one that you've heard of before is the EcoSpeed. And here you can see it set up on an Azub Tricon. That's their unsuspended bike. This is a system.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just let us know when you want to go to the pictures. Don't forget. It's good to show your bikes there too. But we do have pictures of each of these as well. And I think we're starting. Well, go ahead. You do it at your whatever.
So go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and cue up the first pictures then. That'd be great.
Okay, the first one, if you want to, let's see. Let me get this back over here. Thank you, Denny. First one we have is the. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it.
Okay, so let me. I was doing my presentation backwards. We're going to start with the hub drive systems then. What you can see there is the Go Swiss drive. This is the unit that is used on HP Velotechnic bikes. However, you can retrofit them on just about anything else. If you can get me to my camera now, that would be great. We're back to
you. Go ahead.
Here's one. It was actually raining here yesterday. You can see we got a little bit of dirt on the bikes. But this is a Go Swiss up front, up close. Here's the battery pack. You've got the console right there. I don't know if you can tell. When you're using it, your hand's on the steering system here, and you've got easy access to the controls right here. So this system works really, really well. It's a 36-volt system. If you can go ahead and cue the next photo, that'd be great.
All right, go ahead and hit us, Denny. There we go.
The other hub-based system that we use is the Falco drive. Okay, cue back to me, please. So here we've mounted a Falco on an HP Velotechnic Gecko. You can see it looks very similar. It is a hub drive system. One of the key differences between
Dana, slow down just a little bit. There you go.
Sure.
Yeah, just hold your camera a little. That's
am I bouncing around too much like that? Yeah, that'll make people busy.
Otherwise, it's pretty good. There you go.
So one of the big differences between the Falco drive and the Go Swiss is that the Falco is available with a throttle. So not only do you have electric assist, if you need that sudden boost of acceleration, you've got the throttle drive system there. Hub drive systems are probably the most common type of electric assist that you see on vehicles today. A lot of that has to do with, they're simple. It's plug and play. You just drop the wheel in, you hook up some electronics, and off you go. They're not necessarily the most efficient way of getting around by electric assist. If you can cue the next photo, that'd be great.
We're good to go.
Let's see here.
Can you get us, Denny?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
There we go. So the other type of electric assist system on the market would be a mid-drive system. There you can see the EcoSpeed, which I was showing you briefly a moment ago on our AZUB. And the next picture.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Would
There
be
you
a Bafang. Now that's an interesting mount.
It's actually.
I don't remember seeing that. There we go. That's the one I remember
Bafang.
seeing. That's the Bafang bear. Again, it's a mid-drive system. The nice thing about it's called a mid-drive system because on a traditional bike, it would be down by the cranks in the middle of the bike. On a Recumbent, obviously, it's going to be way out front on the boom. But what they do is they drive the crank instead of the rear wheel. So if you can cue back to me now, that'd be great.
Okay, stand by. There we go.
Okay, so here we're back to that EcoSpeed on our AZUB. It's a pretty complex little design. One of the advantages of a mid-drive system is A, you can use whatever rear wheel you want, but B, it's more efficient. And a lot of people ask, why is it more efficient? Well, you're keeping the optimal motor speed at all times with a mid-drive system. Because on a traditional or on a hub drive system, that wheel is changing speed so much, it's not necessarily working at its most optimal speed at all times. So typically when you're using these mid-drives, you're going to get a longer range, you're going to get more power. However, as you can see, they tend to be a little more complicated. This is a system that's much more difficult to install by the user. Probably requires a bike shop and a lot of calls to the manufacturer to get it set up. Where again, the hub drives, they just pop right on.
Okay.
Very good.
In terms of basics, whenever you're looking at an electric motor, there's some different factors that you want to keep in mind. Here really quickly, I'm just going to show you. That's the battery mount system. Almost any system that you mount is going to require a custom battery mount. And as you can see, as we get a little closer, that is made by TerraCycle, the sponsor of today's show. So thank you, TerraCycle, for developing these wonderful systems.
And thank you, Dana, for mentioning that.
Absolutely. I've been friends with Pat and Robert and all the guys for many, many years, and I love selling their products. You guys know I build my own bikes, and they make some of the custom aluminum parts for the car vents as well. So another little plug.
Very nice.
But in terms of efficiency and such with these different types of systems, how much more time do I have, Gary?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try and keep this quick. A lot of people ask about how many miles am I going to get out of a charge? How long is this thing going to last? Those questions are really, really difficult to answer. It really just depends on how you ride. But one thing that I can tell you is the larger the battery, the more, think of the battery as your gas tank. So most of these systems, like the Go Swiss and the batteries that we're running on the Falcos, are about 550 watt hours. They're going to get you approximately 40 miles to a charge, maybe 50 or 60, depending if you're really, really good with the motor. Me, I'm the type of guy that loves kicking it out of 5 and seeing how fast I can go up the mountain, but that's not necessarily everybody. So you definitely want to keep track there. You definitely want to be aware of how much juice your battery is capable of holding. You're also going to want to look at the wattage of the system. The higher wattage is just going to give you more power. And then finally, there's the voltage of the system. The Falcos that I showed you earlier are 48 volt systems, where the Go Swiss system is a 36 volt. The higher the voltage, the more efficient the unit's going to be. So that's
Dana,
kind of it.
How much do those suckers weigh?
About 18 to 20 pounds. So you're definitely adding a lot of weight, but you've also got an electric assist, so it's not really an issue unless you run out of gas.
And a quick question here from AMS Percussion 12345.
Oh,
Dana,
I know
what?
him. I don't.
Okay.
I don't. But
Does he play the drums? It sounds like he would. Dana, what would you recommend for an Easy Racers Gold Rush aluminum recumbent? I assume he means e-drive.
yeah. So, boy, that's a hard question. A lot of it depends on the type of riding you're going to be doing. We saw a lot of Falcos because it's a real open system. You can actually get into it and do all the programming on your computer. All you do is plug it in. So if you want to change levels 1 through 5 on the assist for example, it's very easy to do. You can give a real boost on level 2 and then it mellows out 3 through 5 or however you want to do it. The Go Swiss systems are closed. You cannot work on them at all. Completely proprietary. They can only be changed by Go Swiss in Germany. So
He's got a follow-up question on it too. Wants
sure.
to know whether the aluminum frame on that bike is too fragile. Might it be too fragile?
No. I mean, I would certainly check with the manufacturers. We're not an Easy Racer dealer, so I can't speak to them. Some manufacturers will prohibit electric assist on their bikes, but usually it's the mid-drive systems. So, for example, HP Velotechnic says no mid-drive units. You cannot put an EcoSpeed on any of their trikes. If you do, you void the warranty. Cat Trike, Azub, ICE have said no such thing. So I'm assuming everything goes on those bikes.
All right. I guess that's all the questions we have. Anybody else have a question for Dana?
Nope.
Okay. Dana,
right.
thank you very,
My
very
pleasure.
much. It
It's
was
always fun
interesting
being here.
as always. Yep. We look forward to your next talk and see what we'll get into next time. So thank you very much.
Okay.
And stay dry. You know, I don't probably have to tell you to stay dry too often out in California, but I guess maybe now I do.
Well, let's see here. Right now, this is the weather outside. It's sunny and about 70 degrees, but it actually has been storming quite a bit lately.
Yeah.
Northern California is actually out of the drought now, is my understanding.
It's pretty
and
amazing.
It's getting better and better. So it's hard because, you know, no bike shop wants to see it raining all the time. But
Sure.
As somebody who lives here, I'm sure glad to see it.
Very, very good. Thanks a lot, Dana.
My pleasure.
All right. Yeah, I would show you the out the window here in Central Ohio. It looks a lot like what Dana just showed you. You have to take my word for it. It's getting a little dark, so there's no sense to me even going over to the window right now. Great job, Dana. Thank you. All right, let's start winding it up here. If we can, Denny, pop my logo there on the screen for the Google Plus. There we go. We're gonna talk a little bit about the Google Plus recumbent bike rider community. At this point, we have 1,055 members. So thank you all recent joining members. We appreciate you coming on and talking to us and showing us your pictures. We have a map that has little pins for our members to put in to let us know where you all are. Always ask every month, make sure you fill that little form out so that we can put your pin in there. We got them all over the world, kind of cool to see. Maybe you can find somebody close by to ride with. All right, back to me for a second, Denny. I want to tell everybody about the contest we have every month. We have on the community board, we have a picture of the month, video of the month, and discussion of the month contest to find which is the best post of the month. And let's go ahead and switch to the first picture there. This is called Ride on the Last Day of the Year. It's by one of our newer members, Damiana Day. And she is in New Zealand and touring all around and doing long distance touring. I think she even has you don't see it in this picture, but she has a trailer along with that. And it's she's posted some beautiful pictures. And I'm not so sure that she's not a photographer as well. Ride on the last day of the year in New Zealand. Summertime down there, folks. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? All right, let's move on to the next one, Phil. And you know, you're good right there. There is our video of the month. You saw it. It's there was none, so we didn't have any contributions with videos this month. There's not a lot going on, I guess, outside in a lot of places. So, and then we have the discussion of the month, one by one of our moderators, actually, Bill Barrere, good friend. Really interesting discussion and a cool picture to go along with it. Yes, that's a trike with an underseat steering framed bike on top of it. Bill was working on that bike and delivered it to the train and took it to the customer on the back of his trike. Interesting discussion revolved around carrying things around like that. We haven't had a discussion on carrying stuff around the bike since we talked to Shelley Mossy a number of months ago. So I'm sure he'd be proud of you, Bill. Congratulations. Great discussion. And then the next one we got is the, oh yeah, so of course, Pilleus Pulcher, who I give a slot to every month. And honestly, you can see why. Just a gorgeous picture. He's in Germany. Takes lots of pictures of his rides with all his different bents. They've had a lot of what they call hoarfrost there. I guess the fog that freezes on the trees and such just makes for a beautiful background, and he knows how to frame up a shot. So afternoon countryside, freezing, fog, and rain is what he called it. Pilleus, another wonderful picture. Thank you very much. And now let's talk a little bit more about our sponsor this month, and it is, as Dana talked about, TerraCycle, our friend Pat Franz at TerraCycle. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, TerraCycle makes all kinds of things for your bent, and the number of offerings continues to expand. Here are a few recent introductions. There are accessory mounts for those of you with bar end shifters and mounts that can attach just about anything to your handlebars. Their new flag mount is so flexible that you can now fly your colors from almost anywhere you choose. TerraCycle's newest wonder, here, we'll get to it. It's okay, Phil. Let's, yeah, let's hang on, folks. Sorry about that. We're gonna get a little ahead of ourselves here. There we go. So this is the flag mount here. It's so flexible, you can now fly your colors from almost anywhere you choose. TerraCycle's newest wonder is the Thrive Cycling Assist Arms. Okay, Phil, just hit the next button on that. And you can see that's Pat working on those. He actually just bought out the Thrive Cycling Assist Arm company. It was originally developed by Eddie Edson, and these uniquely ergonomic arms have lots of grip options and are very easy to use both sitting down and standing up. And now let's get to that special exclusive offer for the viewers of the Laidback Bike Report. From now until the end of February, use the code LAIDBACK when ordering from the TerraCycle website. You will receive free shipping in the USA, and for our viewers around the world, we have something even for you, half off international shipping. And you want to come back to me, Denny? I want you all to be able to take advantage of this generous offer by heading to t-cycle.com right now. I have that link listed in the description below, in the YouTube description, and you'll be able to click right on that and go directly to TerraCycle. So take advantage, and thanks a lot, TerraCycle. Well, folks, we're going to close it up here now. I want to, first of all, remind you, as I mentioned, the link to TerraCycle in the video description. We're going to have a link to all the websites that we've mentioned here today on the Sports Report, and Bryan and Denny. We'll have those links all in there for you, and we'll get some of Steve's links in there too, so you'll be able to head to all those places we've talked about without having to go searching all around. All right, let's talk about what's coming up next month. I've got some exciting news for you here. Thank you, Denny. So as you can see, that is a Velomobile, and one of our most successful shows from last year was our Velomobile show, all about Velomobiles. Well, we had such a good response, so many people interested in them, that I wanted to do a little bit more. So this month we are going to find out about how the Velomobile is made. We are going to have the owner of Intercity Bike from Holland. His name is Jimpy Sijbrandij. I'm sure I didn't do that right, but there's Jimpy, and well known in the Velomobile circles as an ultra racer and racer in the Velomobile and Recumbent circles as well, I should say. And we're going to take a tour of their Dutch facility there, where they do some assembly and that sort of thing. These bikes, these Velomobiles, and most of them now, I think, are actually made in Romania, I understand. So we'll see if we get some pictures and have Jimpy talk to us about what goes into the creation of these amazing and beautiful recumbent bikes. And what they make there is the DF. They're called the DF Velomobiles. So we'll also have Joseph Janning and Doug Davis, who were a couple of our panelists from last year, Velonauts themselves back on our panel to help me navigate the questions and answers that we'll get from Yimpty. So yeah, that's coming next month, and I hope you will join us. I don't know if I mentioned it's February 19th. We've bumped that towards the end of the month a little bit because of the Florida trip that I talked about doing. So we'll have a lot to talk about as we approach the later part of February with the next show. All right, I want to thank all of my my panelists, and starting out with Bryan Ball. Bryan, I think, is gone for the day. He had something else to do, but thank you, Bryan, and Bent Rider. You always do us proud with your support and help. We really appreciate that. And let's hit Dana if we could. Dana, thank you very much. Yep. For the wonderful report and being with us. We love having you on the panel. Thanks a lot. And I think you muted yourself. And you said, Gary, I love being on your show. And
Gary, I love being on your show. You see,
there we go. The delay.
It's so much fun.
Yes.
Actually, I'm having fun playing with my 3D printer. So
yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that sometime because I'm fascinated by those as well. And hopefully at some point I'll be able to 3D print an actual panelist. I don't know. We'll talk a little and be able to do that. Thanks a lot, Dana. Have a good one.
See you next time.
All right. And Denny, can you pop yourself on there?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I can. Give me a second here. Here we go.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much, Denny, for your help today. I know it's not been easy, but you did a great job and the good sports report. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, it's always fun. I look forward to it every month and love this content today. And yeah, there was a few bugs, but I guess we got all through it. I'm getting a lot less nervous about this whole darn thing anyway. So yeah, whatever happens, happens.
It happens, and I get more nervous probably. So, all right, see if you can find Larry Varney for us. Where's Larry?
Yeah, I can. He's still awake too.
Larry?
Yeah, hang on. Somebody just popped the screen up here, and I just can't quite catch
Larry.
him. There we go. Come on, Larry.
There you go.
Yeah,
Larry, thanks for being on. We're hoping for better bandwidth for Larry because he just can't participate the way he can and he should. But when he does get that cable out there to the hinterlands of Kentucky, we're going to have
muted, Larry.
To it. So thanks for being on, Larry.
You're muted.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move along. Let's move along to Stephen. Stephen's still with us. Yeah, that's me.
Here we go. There he is. Yes, there is. There he is.
It's so professional, Stephen. I bet you're impressed by the way that we run the show. I think you're muted too. I can't hear you.
Yeah. No.
So we're going out with a bang, folks.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Hey, thanks. This was really fun and interesting. I learned a lot.
Great, Steve. Well, wonderful. As I said before, having you on. We'll be in touch. Absolutely. All right, and that's the panelists, folks. If you can come back to me, Denny, yes, I want to thank all of you folks for bearing with us today. I hope you found the show interesting. We try our best to bring you the most interesting guests and panelists in the bend industry, and we do what we can do, and that's what we'll continue to do the best we can. So thanks for watching, everybody. Final things here. If you want to support us, as I said earlier in the show, there's a red subscribe button in the lower right hand corner, and if you hit that, you'll go to our website, laidbackbikereport.com. Find all kinds of interesting information there. I will let you know again about the links I put in the discussion for you to click on. I'm also going to put in a table of contents like I do every time, so you'll be able to skip through the video, find the parts that you like to watch. If you can't watch the whole thing, we will do that. If you'll head to Facebook, if you're on Facebook, please like us on the Laidback Bike Report page. We appreciate that. And where's that picture of Larry wearing the hat? I want to talk about the hat. There we go. Please, if you're on our website, we do sell these Laidback Bike Report hats. That's a fundraiser for us. It helps us out. $20, $5 shipping and handling. You can look as dapper as Larry Varney if you are wearing one of those. So please do that. Laidbackbikereport.com. That's where you can see that. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about the website. You can go ahead, Denny, and show the website slide because I want to talk to them what they can find on the website. It'll show you who we have coming up. It'll show we have a past shows page, as you see there, which includes the live chat archive that we do every month now. So I'll put the chat that we have today in there, just like all the other ones. You'll be able to read through that. Bonus videos, the things that don't make the show, we'll put in there, and the images that we use on the show, you can find all of those on the bonus material page. You can sign up for our mailing list on the show. A mailing list on the website, I should say, which will get you 2 or 3 emails a month. I will let you know what's going on there. Denny, come back to me if you would. And you can find all of that at laidbackbikereport.com. So, folks, thank you so much for bearing with us today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Until our next webcast, from all of us here at the Laidback Bike Report, so long, everybody.